Everybody good? Everybody good? ¿Todos estamos bien? Oh my goodness, this is awesome. This is awesome. Welcome to the Familia FFP podcast. I'm Jorge Martin and we are live. Estamos en vivo. We are, again, East Coast. Our amigos on the East Coast, welcome, bienvenidos. Hope you're having a chela. Hope you're having a beer, cerveza, margarita, a little tequila, anything. Hope you're enjoying yourself. Us over here on the West Coast, hopefully we're starting the happy hour a little bit soon, but if not, hey, that gets us in the happy hour. Welcome to the Friday edition of the Familia FFB podcast. Again, this is usually a Wednesday show, but we had a little technical difficulties earlier in the week, and so we're coming up and doing it today. It is our Adentro y Afuera show, start and sit. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We are here. Estamos aquí a sus órdenes. Estamos aquí to join you very much. We're definitely looking to answer the questions because week 2 is a great week, and week 2 got off to a unexpected great start because coming on the heels of that Thursday night football game last week with the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, well, we couldn't come close to. We had to look and say, hey, you know what's going to be better than doing it again? And the level of football may not have been that great, but you know what? It was still plenty exciting where you got to figure what the two teams each won or thought they won on consecutive plays. Unfortunately, there was a penalty against the New York Giants on the missed field goal. So Dustin Hopkins of the Washington football team got a chance to do a second field goal, and that time it came through. It went through. The Washington football team won 30-29. Beat the New York Giants, and it started off as a rainy game. So I actually put out on Twitter that this was going to be a kind of an ugly game, the big defensive showdown with the over/under at 40.5. I was calling the under. Well, so much for that. I guess the rain did kind of stop, and things got looking a little bit better for the offensive side of the ball. Both quarterbacks actually played pretty well. Taylor Heineke. Yo no sé, where does this guy come from? I mean, I saw something calling him kind of like a Russell Wilson type. Yo no sé about that, but you know what? The guy did throw for 336 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 1 pick. He just was locked in on Terry McLaurin. Threw to him 14 times, got 11 catches, 107 yards, got him a lot in stride, got him a lot of yards after the catch opportunities, got a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, the F1, he is a guy who is going to be good all season. The rest of the team, the rest of the football team, J.D. McKissick, me dolió. That was kind of painful because of the fact that I have Antonio Gibson on one of my main home league teams, and I really there was a lot. There was that touchdown that J.D. McKissick vultured away on inside the 5-yard line, and also just they were going to him a lot, using him a lot in the passing game, McKissick, and really ignoring Antonio Gibson during the closing minutes of the game. So it was a little frustrating for Antonio Gibson. Those who have Antonio Gibson on their teams, don't, keep hope alive. There's still a lot of football to go. We're going to keep an eye on this situation. Hopefully, J.D. McKissick isn't vulturing any goal line work again, because that was one of the true values of Antonio Gibson. On the other side, Daniel Jones went for 249 yards. He was under a lot of pressure all night, and it was to be expected. The Washington football team has one of the best defensive lines in the game, with Chase Young really leading the way, and just they were in his face. It was a line that was under siege. They suffered an injury during the game to their center, and I mean that just hurts. It kind of hurt a little bit to Saquon Barkley, where people were really starting to think, should we be sitting Saquon Barkley? And he had that 41-yard run where it almost looked like he was going to take a 75-yarder to the house. I actually put out on Twitter right before the game, don't get cute. Once he was deemed active, I said, don't get cute. You're starting Saquon Barkley. Even if he gets a dozen touches, one of them could go for 80 yards and a touchdown. And as he's going, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be Nostradamus. Estoy ahí. So it didn't happen. ended up with 57 yards, even though Daniel Jones was the leading rusher with 95 yards rushing on 9 carries. He got a touchdown. Also had another one called back in the second half. So, he's really looking like he's becoming more of a weapon in the running game, and it's going to help him. Maybe he's not going to be there with like a Jalen Hurts, definitely not going to be on the Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray realm, but maybe Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, one of those guys, that kind of usage. Hopefully that'll mitigate the turnovers that are going to happen, because we know they're going to come through the air and through fumbles. His big target that yesterday was Sterling Shepard. He targeted him 10 times out of 32 total attempts, hit him 9 times for 94 yards. So he was good. Everybody else got three touches. And I'll tell you, the one though, it was Darius Slayton. Ay, Dios mío. Oh, that one hurts. Eso duele, como duele, that touchdown. I know that is our friends who are Giant fans. Shout out to G-Man Jay Felicio, who I know he's a big-time Giants fan. Steffi Smalls, Buena Amiga of the show. Those... sorry about that. But I know it also makes our Washington football team friends of the show very happy. Robbie Johnson, Rum Boys of the Rum Boys Fantasy Network, Manny Chokuba, those people who are, and also in the area, but not quite a Washington football team fan, but my amigo Herms NFL. So really, I got to tell you, this is still going to be a tough offense to kind of read how it's going to be, how the targets are going to go. I know Shepard was definitely targeted a lot, but I think, Kenny Golladay had a couple of points where he looked like he was being targeted. He got targeted. He did get targeted 8 times. Only 3 hit pay dirt for 38 yards. But this one, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. See, hopefully with the extra time off, we could stop listening to the Saquon Barkley. Is he going to start? Is he not going to start? He looked good. Maybe he, wasn't quite as explosive yet, but again, he hasn't even been a year out of the ACL surgery. So let's just hope. And that's enough for Thursday Night Football for what was surprisingly a competitive game. Let's get into some Chisme, and a lot of outs that are being called out. We've got Odell Beckham Jr. out. He was ruled out yesterday. We're recording this on Friday, September 17th. That's going to be up a lot for one of the players we're going to talk about in a little bit. One of the surprising outs today was Josh Jacobs coming in. He's been battling toe and ankle injuries. Obviously, on the short week, he missed some practices, and today it was just decided, hey, he's not going to go. Will Fuller was also declared out. It's for personal reasons. So some cryptic tweets are out there. So I'm not going to kind of validate them. I really want to hear what the Dolphins say, what the league says, what Fuller says before anything gets reported completely. Obviously, people like Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, the Ian Rappaport, they're going to be on this story, so we'll be keeping an eye on it. And a couple other injuries that are really impacting teams. Ryan Fitzpatrick, obviously we saw Taylor Heinicke. He's going to be out for quite a while. He's been ruled out for surgery right now. So what that means, no sabemos. So we'll see. Jerry Jeudy, I talked about in an article earlier this week. He's going to be on IR. That one's going to be something to keep an eye on because it's a high ankle sprain. Our buen amigo Dr. Edwin Porras likes to point out that a lot of times it takes the full 6 weeks. Even if a player comes back in 3 weeks, it takes that 6 weeks for that player to come back. So let's kind of pump the brakes a little bit on him, on those expectations, and hopefully he's a key factor in the second half of the season. One of the tough injuries, Raheem Mostert out for the season. Now, a lot of people spent a lot of money on Elijah Mitchell this week, and I was one of them. I had a couple of teams that had Raheem Mostert, so I spent a good chunk of fab budget. Was I doing it with the idea that I was going to be spending it on his full-time replacement? No. I was just trying to get an above-average replacement level player. Elijah Mitchell was great, 104 yards rushing last week. He was really good. But the thing that that I'm expecting is this is a backfield that they really like their committees. They like to share the ball. It's going to be him. It's going to be a lot of different faces that are going to be getting time. I really think Trey Sermon's going to be reintroduced. I think when Jeff Wilson comes back from injury, I think he's going to be reintroduced. JaMychal Hasty is going to get plenty of carries. This is not going to be a fun backfield for fantasy managers. So I'm telling you that right now. So temper your expectations on those who are thinking that Elijah Mitchell is going to be this year's James Robinson. Be very careful. Muy con cuidado on that one. So one last injury of note, DeMarcus Lawrence, he underwent foot surgery on Thursday, and he's going to be reportedly out 6 to 8 weeks. That's a big hit for the defensive line for the Cowboys. That was one of the strong suits of the team. The secondary has been getting torched all last season, and obviously they had a tough time against the last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the world champs. So I think this is going to be a tough one for them. So let's keep an eye on this injury, what it does to those opponents. To me, that I'm going to be talking about their opponent from this week, the Chargers, very soon. And last one, we had Devonta Freeman promoted from the practice squad to the active roster. He was promoted over Le'Veon Bell. So that kind of says something that they liked what they saw more from Freeman than from Bell. So I don't think that says many good things about Lev Bell. If you want Freeman, get him. Again, this is going to be another backfield that's a lot of committee. I just don't see them getting a lot of one guy who's really the main dude. So vamos a ver. No lead caballos out of that backfield, and very few far between. So, time to get into some Adentro y Afuera. So who's in, who's out? It's our Latino version of the start-sit conundrum, the questions, las preguntas, las dudas, what we need to do, what we need to answer for this week. And number one, we talked about it right now, Justin Herbert. Last week's performance was one of the guttiest performances I saw. He was he was under siege the entire game. He was just good. He was good. He faced it down. And to me, one of the most impressive things was when it was time to run out the clock, they passed out the clock. That was one thing that was just truly impressive about that one. They put the ball in their best player's hands, and they said, "Vámonos. Your turn. It's your turn to go finish this game off. Win us this game." He went for over 300 yards. Now look at him this week. He's facing a Dallas defense that just got torched by Tom Brady for almost 400 yards. It was a clinic. And what's going to happen here? Herbert has that same Dallas secondary, and we were just talking about it. DeMarcus Lawrence is a guy who's going to be sitting out, and he was one of their key pass rushers. If they don't, even though the Chargers are going to be without Brian Bulaga, who is on the short-term IR, the rest of that offensive line, they were dominant. They were fantastic against that. That there was a tweet earlier this week released by the Chargers showing a string of blocking plays by Rashawn Slater, protecting Justin Herbert's blind side, and a lot of those plays were against Chase Young, where he was just neutralizing him. If this line is as good as advertised, and keeps Justin Herbert upright, this is going to be a special season for this kid. I'm not predicting Dan Marino 1984 where he threw 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. No, but you know what? We could be talking about 4,500 plus yards and 40 plus touchdowns. That's how good this kid is, because he has some weapons. Keenan Allen is one, and we're going to talk about another one in a second. But this guy is special. He's going to be good, and I think and he is one of the big starts. He may not be in this column or this show much longer, because you know what, he is pretty much in that realm of you start him every week. Play him every week. He's, you got to get him in the lineup every time. Single quarterback, definitely double quarterback. You are playing him every week. This is a guy who can just go off 400 yards and 5 touchdowns on a given week. He is that good. Another player that I love this week, Baker Mayfield. He is just, he has an incredible, everything is lining up for him. The Cleveland Browns are coming off a tough loss where they should have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a double-digit lead in the second half, and they let it crumble away. So here's what's happening. They're coming home, and we know about the dog pound, how they are. The Texans just gave up 332 yards to Fabio Football, a.k.a. Trevor Lawrence. The Cleveland Browns have superior weapons. That defense, that offense, you still, even without OBJ, you still got Jarvis Landry, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, and that dominant running back tandem of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. You've got Baker Mayfield. He's going to be commanding this offense. He is going to have a big game. I'm talking, he went for 321 last week against Kansas City. I think he goes for at least that, 2 to 3 touchdowns. He's going to have a big week this week. This is going to be, this game with a 12.5 point spread has blowout written all over it. One last quarterback to talk about, Jalen Hurts. So he's going up against San Francisco. It's a home game. Philly is coming home off of that big win over the Atlanta Falcons. Big win, 32-6. So you got Hurts. He was the QB6 last week. He threw for 264 yards, and he added another 62 yards. He threw for 3 touchdowns in there. He is going to be that. He is going to be entering that realm of top 10 QBs who, you don't even think about it. You just start him every week. With that rushing floor, he is going to have plenty. He is going to have plenty of fantasy upside. That Konami code that we love. He's going to be running the ball a lot. And the big thing about San Francisco, they suffered a big loss this week. They lost their I was going to say Stan Verrett, but that's ESPN. Jason Verrett, the defensive back, he is out for the season. And now they're signing guys off the street. I think it's going to be one of those things where this is an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to have a big passing game. That could mean some Devonta Smith. That could mean some Jalen Reagor, even Quez Watkins, definitely some Dallas Goedert. We'll see what's coming out of the backfield, whether it's Miles Sanders or Kenneth Gainwell. One of these guys is going to be filling it up. Hey, let's go to the running backs right now. David Montgomery. Is he good finally? Is it good to have 100 yards against the Los Angeles Rams? One of the top defenses last year, who hadn't given up a 100-yard rusher since 2019. This guy's good. He's explosive. As Lester Wiltfong of Windy City Gridiron told me during the preseason, Montgomery has worked on his speed and agility, and it really showed. He was explosive and he was fast, and he was the best player on offense for the Bears. And he's going up against a defense in Cincinnati that just was only okay. They got lit up for 104 total yards by Dalvin Cook last week, including 6 receptions. Now let's see if that means that they're going to be getting that the Bears are going to be using Montgomery more in the passing game. So we'll see on that one. A big one to talk about, Najee Harris. Let's get this guy in your lineup. Maybe he let you down a little bit last week. Maybe he had, we all had sky high expectations for him, but that Buffalo defense is good. Now I know they weren't as tough against the run last year, but they were decent. They were definitely good last week. He only ran for about, he didn't run for more than 50 yards last week. So, but you know what? Volume is king. He had a 100% snap share on offensive plays. He was in on every play. So volume is going to be king. El Rey with this guy. I'm talking 20 touches, 20 carries, and 4 to 5 receptions. And I keep thinking about, against the Raiders, who are coming off a short week. So and a very emotional week, an emotional victory in overtime where they played an extra period. So are they going to be a little exhausted without having an extra day? I think it's very possible. And I'm remembering also very clearly the Tyson Williams touchdown that was early in the first half. He all of a sudden just burst right through the middle. And I'm thinking Najee Harris is more talented than this guy. He's gonna blow through these guys. I'm talking about 100 yards, 100 total yards, at least 1 touchdown. Get this guy in your lineup. Another guy to keep an eye on, Devin Singletary. So he was the lead caballo last week. I mean, he rushed for 72 yards on 11 carries, and he also was catching balls. But the big thing was Zach Moss was inactive. All the people who were talking about Moss being one of the main guys, probably taking over the lead caballo role for this team. It's not. It didn't happen last week. That Singletary was the primary carrier, and one of the things that Greg Thompson told me during the preseason, from Cover One Bills, is Devin Singletary is going to get the bulk of the receiving work out of the backfield. And I'm fully expecting that that's going to happen. And I look at Miami; they gave up 6 receptions and 7 targets to Devin Singletary last week. And I tell you, we could be looking at the same exact amount of targets this week. So it's shaping up as a good game for this guy. It's going to be he's going to be. Vamos a ver. This is going to be a great matchup, and I think we're going to like what we see out of him very much. Muy cierto. So we're gonna let's look over to the wide receivers, and I think the big one is the guy who's going to be hooking up with Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, and this guy is just wonderful player. To me, the big is he's one of the most underrated players. He gets a ton of targets. He does, and it's all because he doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, and he's been doing it for a long time. So, and again, we talked about it. No OBJ this week. Who's going to be the primary target? This guy. And it's a weak secondary. This was a secondary that was number 27 against wide receivers last year in fantasy points per game. Thank you, lineups.com. He caught all 5 of his targets last week for 71 yards. I'm looking at him to have a big game this week. Looking for a big game. Also, another guy that I'm looking to have a big game, and we talked about his quarterback a little bit ago. There's a recurring theme: stacks. Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield, Mike Williams, and Justin Herbert. Mike Williams is really starting to deliver on that promise of being the X receiver in this offense. The New Orleans Saints offense with offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi kind of bringing that offense to the West Coast. And now all of a sudden you've got Mike Williams in that same role as Michael Thomas. And last week he delivered 12 targets, 8 receptions, 82 yards, a touchdown, almost had another one. He is locked in. He got one fewer target than Keenan Allen. So he is definitely, if he's getting anywhere close to the amount of target share as Keenan Allen, we're talking a big year. This is a contract year for him. So we can definitely be looking for big things out of him. But yes, you want to look at him. He was on the field 85% of the snaps. He got 27% of the targets. Everything is lining up. And then you've got that Dallas secondary that just got lit up last week. And I think they're going to be plenty vulnerable again. This is a defensive secondary that I'm going to be targeting a lot, because I think this is going to be a team. The Dallas is going to be a team that's going to have to outscore its opponents this year. I don't think they're going to be. They might be able to hold teams down in the run, but I don't think they're going to be doing it in the pass. So Mike Williams, get him in your lineup. Another guy, Robert Woods. He is, it's really easy to kind of, think about fading him. You got Cooper Kupp, who had 10 targets last week, and Robert Woods had only 4. But again, it's you don't worry about that with Woods. The targets are coming. This guy's going to be around 100 receptions this year. He's going to get enough jet sweeps to get 2 or 3 touchdowns. This guy is a great player. He only got 68% of the snaps last week. I'm looking at that number coming up because historically this is what he's got him. This is going to be a great offense. I still think Cooper Kupp is a guy you're really just firing up both of them. And Van Jefferson is another guy you're thinking about. Tyler Higbee, you're definitely starting him every week. This is going to be just a special offense. Indy has Xavier Rhodes. He is out for this game, suffering from a calf injury. So if that secondary is vulnerable, they're going to be attacking them with these 2 guys, with Kupp and Woods, and everybody else is going to follow. They're going to feed off of these 2 guys. Another guy, Mike Evans. Against Dallas, let me tell you what he did. 96% of routes run, but he only got 13% of the targets. You think he's only going to get 6 targets this week? No. Eso no va a pasar. He's gonna blow past that number. This is the Atlanta secondary, which just got lit up by Jalen Hurts. Now you got Tom Brady, the GOAT, coming in. And you got you got a receiving set of Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, and Chris Godwin and Rob Gronkowski. You think they're not going to feast? They're going to feast. Mike Evans, he going to eat. He is going to eat. Get him in your lineup. Another one that's interesting is Jacoby Myers playing at the Jets this week. And again, we've talked about this secondary being a secondary that you want to go after. You're going to play against them. You're looking at Myers. One of the things that I loved about him, he was targeted on 46% of their third down targets last week, and he was on 95% of the routes run last week against the Dolphins. If he is that trusted by Mac Jones to be getting almost half of the third down targets, one of the most important, the most important down, you going for first down, I'm looking for him. This is a Jet defense that was 28th in passing yards allowed last year. And, they gave up 279 to Sam Darnold, who's rebuilding himself. He's like the $6 million man. Thank you, Steve Austin fans from the 70s. So Jacoby Myers, he's a player to play. You want him. He is adentro. Get him adentro. And, on the DFS side, I'm looking at Nelson Aguilar too. He is going to be cheap in there. I will talk about that one in an article tomorrow, and we'll drop that one in there. Let's go to the other side. Afuera. To me, there's no one more afuera than Tyrod Taylor. I was just so happy for him last week, coming in and getting having a 291-yard game with 2 touchdowns, just added 40 rushing yards. Considering what happened to him last year, the way he lost his job, somebody called it, we got Wally pipped. You know what? It's tough, but you know what? The guy kept going forward. He's in Houston now. He's going to be the starting quarterback. And you know what? He's not going to make anybody forget Patrick Mahomes, but he is a professional NFL quarterback. The tough part is this week he's going to Cleveland. Cleveland has a good secondary. Denzel Ward leading the way on that one. Johnny Johnson. This is a group that's gonna put a blanket on these guys. It's on the road. This is not in the friendly confines in Houston Stadium. This is going to be a tough one, and I think Tyrod Taylor may have to throw some garbage time, but it could be a tough one. There could be some picks involved. Maybe there won't be as many touchdowns as could be, but again, this is going to be it's a tough matchup. Another tough matchup, Tua Tagovailoa. He was the QB 22 last week. It was a tough matchup, having to go play the New England Patriots, winning 17-16 in a tough one. But the Patriots are always tough. Head coach Bill Belichick is just murderous on young quarterbacks, and to still come out and be the QB 22 and have a couple, throw for a couple hundred yards and run in a touchdown. That was good. But again, this is for this week in single quarterback formats, I'm sitting Tua, and I might even be looking at him to sit him in super flex leagues. If a third quarterback has a better matchup, the Bills, they were number 13 in passing yards allowed last year. And again, they have one of the best corners in the NFL in Tre'Davious White. This is also another thing. Will Fuller was ruled out for this game. So we talked about this earlier. So Tua has one fewer of his speed options that he's used to. So I don't know about this game. Do not know about this game. Another one, Derek Carr, courageous effort, 435 yards last week against Baltimore, but that team is beat up. Their secondary was beat up. Marcus Peters had already been declared out for the season. This is a really good secondary. This is a great pass rush that Pittsburgh has. It's in Pittsburgh. It's an early game. Just everything is shaping up the wrong way for the Raiders, and I just don't see Carr having a big game. I think he's going to be looking at T.J. Watt and others plenty of times during the game. It's going to make them rush into bad throws, maybe an interception or two, and it's going to be a tough one. So if you got a better option, sit Derek Carr down. Another one, Zach Wilson. We talked about head coach Bill Belichick against rookie quarterbacks. I saw a stat from NBC Sports that the Patriots are 13-0 against rookie quarterbacks dating back to 2000 when the game is in New England. This game is in New York, and we're at the Meadowlands, Jersey, because everything is legal in New Jersey. But again, this is going to be a tough game for him. Zach Wilson may have his moments, but again, I don't see him doing much of anything this week. And the Patriots, even without Stephon Gilmore, are going to put a blanket on him. Going over to the running backs, to me, one of the biggest afueras is Mike Davis. Tampa Bay run defense was number one last year, and they were fantastic last week in bottling up Ezekiel Elliott to the point where a lot of Zeke managers are tilting and going, se están haciendo locos. For you, those of you who have Zeke on your team, don't worry. He's going to be fine. Maybe he's not going to be the running back one, but he is going to be a top 10 running back this year. He's going to be fine. It was a tough matchup, and the tough things all around. Mike Davis is not going to have a lot of room to run this week. That offensive line was just not getting any push last week in the run or the pass game, and I think what's going to happen, Atlanta's going to have to abandon the run really, really quickly, and that's going to be tough for Mike Davis and those who have him on their team. You're just going to have to, deal with the fact that it's going to be a bad game script for him. So you're just going to, if you have another option, sit him down. Unless you're a zero RB person, I'd be looking to sit him down. Over on getting back to the Cleveland game, Mark Ingram, the second, he's not going to get 26 carries and 85 yards this week because the game script is going to be totally different. He's just not going to get as many carries because of the fact that they're going to have to throw the ball to try and keep up with the Browns. The Browns were number 7 in fantasy points per game last year in to the running back position. So he's not going to have a lot of room to run. And again, they're going to have to pass the ball. So I'm sitting him on my teams unless I have to start him, unless the options are not possible. Let's go over to the wide receivers and tight ends. Michael Pittman Jr. is taking on the Rams this week. And I mean, that's secondary. That means plenty of Jalen Ramsey. There's no T.Y. Hilton. He's on IR. Michael Pittman is going to be the focal point of this passing game, I think. And to me, that's going to mean a lot, plenty of attention, mucha atención from Jalen Ramsey. And, what does that mean? That means not a lot of passes coming his way. I don't think he's going to get shadow coverage because Jalen Ramsey doesn't really do that. He's more, he's definitely an all-around defender, but he is going to be having his moments where he's on Pittman and it's going to take him out of the game. So again, it's going to be a tough one. The Rams also have other defensive backs who are good outside of Jalen Ramsey. So, if you can, avoid him. Another one, and this one, me duele mucho because I've got him on a lot of teams, but Henry Ruggs at Pittsburgh. We talked so much about what's happened already with Derek Carr, what the Raiders are facing. Ruggs was only targeted 5 times last week. And to me, with the fact that the Steelers are not going to give Derek Carr a lot of time to throw, that means it's going to be a lot of underneath stuff. There's going to be stuff to Kenyon Drake because Josh Jacobs is out. There's going to be stuff to Darren Waller. I don't think they're going to let stuff to kind of develop with Henry Ruggs, even though they talked about throwing some underneath balls, putting him in the slot, getting him out into space. I don't know if that's going to happen for him this week. He only got 5 targets last week, caught 2. Thank you for the one that got me a win last week in one of my leagues. But again, it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be very easy for him to get too many targets. And this next one, y este me hace cosa, me duele mucho Calvin Ridley. Okay, let's get this out. Let's familia, before you start like throwing rocks at me or tomato lo que sea or tequila bottles, you're not sitting Ridley. Maybe you're avoiding him in DFS, but the main business that we need to talk about is you are not sitting Ridley. If Mateo Yellow, aka Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, he had so little time to throw against the Eagles, who have a respectable defensive line, how much time is he going to have to throw with Tampa Bay? Nada mucho. It's going to be tough. Va a ser muy difícil for him. So I don't know if they're going to let plays develop for Ridley to take any shots, even intermediate shots. I think, maybe there's some stuff close to the line, but are those going to end up in big yardage or possibly even touchdowns? Not likely. I mean, the Bucks were a little vulnerable in the passing game, but again, that was, I think there's a little bit of difference between Dak Prescott and Matt Ryan. So again, but if you've got Ridley, don't panic. Everything looks good everything that you want with him looks good. he's getting a 95% route. He's running 95% of routes. He's getting a target share of 25%, leading the team. These are exactly the numbers that you want to see out of your wide receiver one, the guy that you spent at worst a second round draft pick on it, maybe third round in super flex leagues. You spent some high draft capital, but this is just going to be a tough, muy duro matchup. So I don't see it happening for him, for a big week happening for this week. Maybe there's volume, maybe you get some PPR points with a lot of short yardage passes, but I just don't see a lot going on because they're just not going to, the Falcons, that offensive line is not going to give a lot of time to him. So closing up shop, Mike Gesicki. He's the tight end he's our last afuera. Again, going up against Buffalo. Now, if you go 0 for 3 in baseball, it's not so bad. You got tomorrow. 0 for 3 in football, that's no bueno. And that was what Mike Gesicki was. He got zero receptions against 3 targets. So, one of the things that Alan Pupar of Sports Illustrated gave me during the preseason was just kind of the insight of what kind of receiver Tua Tagovailoa likes to throw to. And one of them, the receivers that he likes to throw to are Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller, guys that are going to get you out and they're going to get out in space and be able to work and use their speed going down the field. Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, they are not those guys. They're contested catch guys, which Tua doesn't like to throw into coverage too much. Maybe he's going to work on that a little bit, but he just doesn't like to throw into coverage. So Gesicki last year, he had, against the Bills with Tua as his quarterback, he caught 5 of 10 targets for 47 yards. So I don't see it happening this week. Again, the Bills have one of the best have a really, really top flight secondary led by Tre'Davious White. So I don't see Gesicki being a focal point of the offense this week. They may try and run the ball with Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed, and those guys just to try and slow things down with the Bills. But again, Mike Gesicki, I think he's going to have a tough time this week, and it may be a tough season for him. So definitely fade him, put him on the afuera on the list. So everybody, familia, eso es todo for our show. I want to give a special thanks to Anchor for being our hosting network and putting us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, thank you to YouTube for putting my face out there and putting our podcast out to the Familia FFB community. Special thanks to them. Please make sure you do like and subscribe our show. Also, make sure you're checking out our original content at familiafb.com. I've got an article that's already posted talking about our Adentro y Afuera, these picks, a little bit more detail on there. Also going to be planning to put something out on the DFS slate before the weekend is out so that you can get ready for your Sunday morning, set your lineups. Also, make sure you're following me at Jorge Martin 17. Also, make sure you're following us at Familia FFB on Twitter and Instagram. And also check out our Familia FFB Facebook page where we are live there too. Also on Periscope, everybody. So everybody, thank you so much. Have a happy weekend, happy hour. Keep drinking otra chelas. I'm going to have one right now. And everybody remember, todos somos familia. Salud.